Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later.
And now your host. When he was a kid, he thought SD cards were manufactured in San Diego.
Pat Flynn.
Hey, it's Pat here. Happy Friday or other day of the week if you're listening to this a little bit later. I hope you're doing awesome. I just thought about something that was shared with me a while back, and I wish I knew who to give credit to, because when I got this piece of advice, it was at a time when I really needed to hear it, right? As all great advice is, and hopefully this is one of those pieces of advice for you, something that you need to hear at the right time. And it really came into play when I was starting to sell my own products, right? Now, I've sold my own products since 2008. I'm kind of a dinosaur in the world of internet marketing. I've had people come up to me and say, Pat, you're a legend. And I'm like, that makes me sound old. But I appreciate that. So if you think so, I appreciate it. But I still have a lot to learn. And one of the things I learned back then when I was starting to sell my own stuff was the importance of putting some sense of urgency into your sales process, right? Some sense of, well, you're going to miss out if you don't take advantage of this. And I remember feeling kind of slimy when I was introduced to these sort of concepts, right? The idea of a limited number of spots available, but it's a digital product, and that to me felt like a lie, right? So what would be the benefit of, limiting the number of spots in your online course or in some digital product software? Well, I'll tell you the answer in just a sec, but my immediate thought was that's dumb, and that's like you're just kind of fooling people, right? The idea of missing out on bonuses if they don't act in time, or the price goes up if you don't buy by tomorrow, and it was just all stuff that I've heard before that I've never really felt great about. But then I heard this piece of advice. The advice is not to include urgency, although that is a great piece of advice. Here's the piece of advice I got. Our jobs as marketers, good marketers, help people make decisions. Our job is to help people make a decision. Really important, a decision. When it comes to a pitch or when buying something, there's basically only 2 things we want people to do: buy or not buy. Unfortunately, the way we pitch products, the way we set things up, especially online, and especially if you're a nice person. Now, I don't mean that to knock nice people. I'm just saying nice people often avoid, without even knowing, what we're trying to do here. And again, it's this idea that, well, we have to help people understand whether they need this or they don't. If a person is on the receiving end of a pitch or a sales page or an email where you're asking them to buy something, and they're like, well, maybe, or yeah, that kind of sounds like a good idea, but I'm not quite sure. I'll think about that later. Or, I'll let future Pat think about that. Or, yeah, I don't know. Well, if that's a reaction that a person has, you haven't done your job fully. And this is why urgency is a very powerful marketing tool, because it forces that decision to be made. Now, you can force that decision and still be authentic. That, I think, is the key, and that's the absolute goal. Unfortunately, many people don't do that. But you can authentically include urgency so that a decision can be made, right? It forces a person to go, wow, okay, I have to decide now or else, so I'll think about it. But again, if you offer that opportunity for people to have some time to think it over and you give them forever, well, they're forever not going to make that decision. Our job as marketers is to help the decision-making process. And it's good if a person says, you know what, this isn't for me. Because you know what, you've made it clear that it's not for them. They understand all that's entailed with what it is that you're offering, so much so that they know it's not for them. That's good. You know why? Because there's other people now, with the message being so clear, that the product will be a perfect fit for them if you nail the positioning and if you get in front of them, obviously. This is why the messaging is so important. This is why understanding the objections that your target audience has is so important. That's where I came up with my Oreo strategy, right? OREO. When you're selling something, you want to give them an Oreo, because most people love Oreos, right? And whether they dunk it in milk or not, that's up to them. But what does the acronym OREO actually mean? Objection is the O, the first O. Anybody who's on the receiving end of a pitch has objections, whether they know it or not. They might consciously know it, they might say it out loud, or they might not even know they have that objection, but it's something that is subconsciously telling them that this isn't the right thing, or it's not the right thing to do, or it's not going to work, right? So you need to know what those objections are. The easiest way to know about that is to have conversations with people and to run surveys and to experiment and see what works and what doesn't, right? That's the first O, objection. You got to understand the objections. The R is a rebuttal. So how can you say, no, that's not actually true? For example, when selling the podcast course, a lot of people say, hey, Pat, I'm afraid of technology. This course is probably not going to work. That is an objection. Do you think that's stopping people from purchasing my course? Of course. And ultimately, what's the consequence? Ultimately, they're not going to start a podcast and benefit from it. So it is my job, my duty, knowing that I have the number one course on the internet, I have to believe that. And whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. I think my students would agree with that. But I believe that, and therefore I have to be pronounced about it. I have to be not aggressive. I have to be forthcoming, though, about the fact that, okay, well, I'm going to help you make this decision. So Oreo, objection. What's an objection that people have? Well, I'm deathly afraid of technology. I don't think it's going to work out. I'm scared of putting things together and editing and microphones and stuff. Okay. My rebuttal is you don't need to be a technological wizard to start a podcast. In fact, several kids have started a podcast. There's a student of mine. Her name is Dr. B. She's over 60 years old, and she started a podcast. In fact, that was her number one objection. And now she's helping people all across the world who have and live with people who are dealing with ADHD in their life in some way, shape, or form. She's serving so many people now. Can you imagine if she didn't, because she was just afraid of technology like you are? So what did I give there? I gave examples, right? It's one thing to say, no, you don't have to know a lot about technology. Okay, but you need proof. That's where the example comes in. So objection, your rebuttal. You call it out on the sales page. You do not have to know a lot about technology to have a successful podcast. You just straight up bring it. And many of them are going to go, yep, I was actually thinking that. And others are going to go, well, I wasn't thinking that, but now I am, and tell me more. And you're going to say, well, hey, check out these examples of people who were literally afraid of the same thing or who had the same objections as you, who are now doing it, which means you can do it too. And O is the outcome. Objection, rebuttal, an example, and then the outcome. The outcome is important because you don't want to just share somebody like I shared with Dr. B, who is over 60. Again, I mention that because a lot of people who hear that will go, oh, wow, like they can understand that a person who's maybe from an older generation would have trouble with technology. So that's why I keep honing in on that. Dr. B, if you're listening to this, I haven't chatted with you in a while. Please reach out to me. I hope all is well. But your show is doing awesome and great job. Anyway, if I was just like, oh, no, Dr. B did it, and she's over 60, yeah, she started a podcast. but you want to go to the outcome, the result that your example had that matches the transformation that your audience wants, right? So the objection, the rebuttal, your sort of counter, the example, and what was that example's outcome? If that can match at least desire that your target audience has, oh my gosh, then you've just crushed that objection and people can move on to now making a decision, right? The easiest way to help a person make a decision is to crush all the objections, right? You counter them. And when you counter them well and you speak the same language as your audience, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have what Jay Abraham says. He says, if you can define the problem better than your target customer, they're going to automatically assume you have the solution. So when you nail not just the problem and the objections, but you nail the language, and in your example and in your outcome, you match that of the thoughts and the wants and needs, desires, outcomes that your target audience wants, well, of course they're going to come to you. And then using tools like urgency or scarcity, there's only a certain number of spots available, helps them make a decision. It forces that decision. And again, if it's a no, that's okay too. That's okay too. Now, I had mentioned earlier that a urgency or scarcity-driven approach to software seemed weird to me at first, but it doesn't seem weird to me anymore. And the reason is because I have included scarcity in digital products in the past. And typically, not typically, but you should have a reason for doing so. It's a beta version of the software, and you're only going to let a certain number of people in because it might break, because it's so new. Now, there's going to be a number of first movers who are in your audience who are going to want to get a crack at it. And if you are upfront about the fact that it is new and that it might break, well, that's great, because if it does break, there's an excuse. And so there's an excuse, a real, legitimate, authentic excuse for limiting a number of spots inside of a digital course. We often, in our first few launches, will limit the number of days that we have the course available so that we can close the doors. You're like, why would you close the doors? It's like more sales coming in. Again, to have people make a decision by that deadline. If we didn't have that deadline, people could wait till next week or the week after and likely forget about it or wait forever. This is why I like the open-close launch model, because it's much easier to include that authentic urgency and scarcity. But in the digital course, it's treated very similarly to like one would with a software. It's a beta. It's a first cohort. So we want to make sure that the first group is taken care of. So we're only going to let a certain number of people in, or we're only going to have the doors open by a certain time. We're going to close the doors. So we're not worrying about new people coming in. And if you miss the date, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait till later, and the price is probably going to be higher, because we want to reward those who are first movers. We want to reward those who are taking a chance on us. So if you want to take a chance on us, get access to the course before this deadline. You'll get a little bit of a discount. And if you don't, well, you can come back later, but it might be a higher price and you might miss out on a little bit of special treatment, because we're going to ensure that that first cohort who comes in is successful. So that's it. I hope the Oreos tasted good. Anyway, thank you so much. And again, this was just coming to mind because I had a conversation with somebody earlier about this who is a brand new marketer, worried about the same exact things I was worried about, and he's jamming on his next launch, or his first launch, actually. And so good luck to you. You know who you are, and that might be a message for most of you listening too. So anyway, cheers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you in the next episode. We got a great interview coming up on Wednesday, so subscribe if you haven't already, and more follow-up Fridays from yours truly coming up soon. Cheers. Thanks, everybody. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Our senior producer is Sarah Jane Hess. Our series producer is David Grabowski. And our executive producer is Matt Gartland. Sound editing by Duncan Brown. The Smart Passive Income Podcast is a production of SPI Media. We'll catch you in the next session. Hey there, quick pause here because I have to tell you about a tool that completely transforms the podcasting workflow, Riverside.
I get it. I used to juggle multiple platforms just to record one podcast episode. It was exhausting. Zoom for recording, Audacity for editing, and then a bunch of different apps just to create clips and social posts. I've tried other ones as well. They were okay, but they were clunky and super time-consuming. That's where Riverside has massively helped. I can do it all in one place: recording, editing, repurposing, one platform, one streamlined flow. I just log in, record with my guests no matter where they are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video all in one. And get this, even if your Wi-Fi glitches, Riverside records locally on your device so everything sounds and looks crystal clear. But here's my favorite feature: Riverside's AI editing tool. You can remove silences and filler words with just one click. Hours saved. With Magic Clips, Riverside also automatically finds the best moments and turns them into ready-to-post videos for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, all without the extra editing. So if you're looking to level up your production quality and simplify your workflow, go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. It's built by creators for creators, and I think you're going to love it. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. But a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.